For what purpose does the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a parliamentary inquiry. I note that the names of the representatives from the Americas, Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the District of Columbia were not called, representing collectively 4 million Americans. Mr. Speaker, collectively the largest per capita of veterans in this country.
Does the gentlelady have a parliamentary inquiry?
I asked why they were not called.
The House is not in order.
Have some respect. It's not
The
going to
gentlelady
take that
have.
long.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I asked why they were not called. From the parliamentarian, please.
Delegates-elect and the resident commissioner-elect are not qualified to vote. Representatives-elect are the only individuals qualified to vote in the election of a speaker. As provided in Section 36 of the House Rules and Manual, the speaker is elected by a majority of the members-elect voting by surname.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This body and this nation has a territories and a colonies problem. What was supposed to be temporary has now effectively become permanent. We must do something about this
The
problem.
gentlelady is no longer recognized. The House will be in order. The reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today as a former prosecutor and a Republican political appointee in the Bush administration's Justice Department. I know the law, and all I see is the president in Elon Musk's unelected cabal flagrantly breaking the law. Last week, the Trump administration recklessly issued and then rescinded a memo freezing taxpayer funds lawfully appropriated by Congress to local agencies, nonprofits, and school districts. This week, Musk agents demanded access to the Bureau of Fiscal Service, overriding laws and regulations and accessing the most sensitive personal information of every American. Every promise to lower costs and putting the working and middle class first was a lie. The reckless quest to sell out the American people and silence opposition jeopardizes our national security and undermines the very foundation of our country. Project 2025 is the playbook, fear is the weapon, and greed is the point. I yield back.
Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here and to listening to, I believe, one of the most well thought out arguments as to why we should all as Americans be concerned. I want to thank Ranking Member Neal for gathering this committee. We all know that the Ways and Means Committee has the authority for revenue, for tax writing, for trade. We have been very intentional and very measured before responding to a lot of these issues. You have heard from my colleagues about the range of issues that we are seeing. I know people are calling this chaos. This may be chaos to us, but it's not chaos to them. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly why they're doing. I'm concerned why Elon Musk, a special government employee, whatever the hell that means, that's a new term that's come up, who has nothing, was never elected to anything, is an outside billionaire consultant, and DOGE, a fake department, have access to the most sensitive federal payment systems and confidential tax information of millions of Americans. Now, they have access to much more extensive than they've even disclosed to the public. We're learning that day by day by reporters like you all who are finding this information out and sharing it with the American public as to how much they are doing. whether they are not only just reading this information, they're putting it in AI models, we are finding out. They want to understand where the money is flowing. Why do they want to understand where the money is flowing? A lot of individuals up here have brought up that Elon Musk is a billionaire. We do not hate all billionaires, but let's be clear. Much of Elon Musk's resources and his wealth is based on government contracts. $15 billion that we know of is from one company that he owns in government contracts. That is not a conflict of interest. Our new president, President Trump, has said that Elon Musk is going to self-report if he has a conflict of interest. What kind of nonsense is that? And it's no mistake and no chaotic, discombobulated kind of happenstance that one of the first things that our president did was fire the inspectors general. We've almost forgotten about that and all of the other things that have happened. But the watchers are gone. The watchers are not there to be able to do the kind of independent oversight that Congress gave them authorization to. I loved how my colleague, Congressman Swazi, talked about the quotes for the chairman of this committee about leaks. The concern, the fact that having these leaks is actually a felony. Individuals having unauthorized access to information, your taxpayers' information, is a felony. The concern that the chairman expressed previously was for President Trump, for individuals that they're friends with. They are not concerned with the millions of Americans' taxpayers' information. That should be clear to the American public, that most of the Republicans are not concerned with you. They are not concerned with your everyday cost of living, as Congressman Horsford explained to you. They're not concerned about the cost of eggs that was talked about ad nauseum during the campaign, gas, or other goods that you have, and what's that going to mean to your everyday life. We are concerned with hardworking American people, the information, your banking, your Social Security, the most intimate details of your personal life. That's what Congress should be concerned with at this time. And as Congressman Doggett and others explained, Congresswoman Sewell, who heads up oversight, we are going to use whatever power we have in the minority, in the opposition, to the opposition of taking away Americans' rights and their liberties, as our chairman said. We want to open it up to some questions. If you all have questions, we're happy to respond to them. Yes.
Do you feel like Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson are abdicating their congressional authority by allowing the president to overstep congressional authority? I mean, and do you think we're in a constitutional crisis?
Well, I know that people have talked about a constitutional crisis, and the crisis is when the Constitution is not followed. We are the first branch, the first article of government, and one of those things within that Constitution is that we have the power of federal funding to appropriate and decide where that funding is going. The president has tried to remove Congress's authority to do that by freezing funds, by taking them over, by allowing DOGE to freeze funds, to claw back to discussing of dismantling agencies that Congress has put in place. So if that you think is a constitutional crisis, then yes, we are in one.
So what do you think specifically about the role of, say, Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson?
Well, I can't say what is going on in their mind, but I know that they can see exactly what we all see. And if they're not doing anything about it, then I would say that they've abdicated their authority here in this Congress and in the Senate. I don't know if anybody else wanted anything to add, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, I think in a representative democracy, as Stacey has outlined, there's a
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for having us at this Budget Committee to discuss what is revealed as just another set of scams to cover what I, as a native New Yorker, would identify Donald Trump as one of the greatest hustlers that has ever been in the United States. Now, we're going to hear a lot about
The gentlelady is reminded of the House rules that forbid such references to the President of the United States.
That's on the House
She
floor,
may
sir.
proceed.
That's on the House
proceed
floor.
in order. If she does it again, further sanctions will be required.
That's what? Something we hear a lot of is a refrain: a budget is a statement of values. And the values that we are showing here are the values that are not shared by most Americans. There are a lot of cuts that are written into this budget. The bulk of those savings will come from making changes to Medicaid, which currently insures more than 70 million Americans. Another 10 million American children get their health care through the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP. The Republican budget calls for $880 billion in cuts for Energy and Commerce Committee, with health care coverage for 80 million Americans on the table. In the Virgin Islands, over 20,000 people on Medicaid are at risk of losing their health care under Republican budget plans. First out of the gate, the biggest Republican cuts kill health care coverage for children and the poorest Americans. Now, as they said, they will be talking about values in the budget, going against wokeness. I want to talk about what is written in our Bible, which I thought my Republican colleagues were so interested in. In Proverbs, it tells us, whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing, but one who ignores the poor will receive many curses. In Leviticus, it tells us, if any of your fellow people become poor and are unable to support themselves among you, help them so they can continue to live among you. I know that's not something that, unfortunately, my Republican colleagues are interested in anymore. I know that because I was a Republican until I saw the party move away from me. And I realized that it's become even more so when I saw recently a post by President Elon Musk calling the poor the parasite class, calling the poor among us parasites. That's what you've come to. That's what you're believing in now. That is just so abhorrent. So if we're not interested in the poor, if that's not the group that we want to be concerned with, let's talk about the middle class. Let's see how long you guys are going to be supporting the middle class. I don't think that's going to last very long, because when I look at the cuts that are coming, you all talk about money coming back into the pockets of Americans. We know that that's not the truth. This budget is not for the middle class. This budget is for the wealthy. They're proposing $330 billion in cuts in education, much of which are for Pell Grants. Much of this are for working class Americans who are trying to put their children through school. It's for school lunches. It's for pensions, while at the same time extending a tax break for business purchasing equipment. They're cutting nutrition assistance for low-income families. Not poor families, not non-working families, but those who are living on the margins, who need help affording groceries, like eggs, remember that? By at least $220 billion, while providing a tax cut for the 1 in 1,000 estates worth over $14 million per couple. These are the things that this budget is going to be doing. In my home in the U.S. Virgin Islands, early Head Start programs in the Territory operate under the jurisdiction of Lutheran Social Services. Taking a hacksaw to funding is tantamount to tearing up the pages that should be giving us this wisdom. While pushing their agenda to give trillions in deficit-busting handouts for the richest few, Republicans continue to be eerily quiet on the things that really matter to Americans. The Republican budget plan will do nothing to lower costs. They will actually do the opposite. The budget rips off hardworking American families and drives up costs of everything that the Americans actually need to live. I leave you for a moment with one last quote from Proverbs. He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives his bread to the poor. This budget not only takes from the poor, it takes from those hardworking Americans who are trying to get by, who believed the lies of our president in that campaign. Reality bites.
Gentlelady,
Ms. Plaskett is recognized for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This amendment would strike reconciliation instructions to the Ways and Means Committee and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Together, these committees have jurisdiction over programs that protect federal agencies from unlawful spending freezes, shield nonpartisan, hardworking civil servants from unfair attacks and firing, and prevent wannabe oligarchs from gaining access to federal fiscal databases or financial systems of record. Listen, we have heard so much ad nauseum about the Department of Government Efficiency's DOGE. It's all everybody ever talks about. It's created by an executive order on January 20th, we know this year, and it has been violating federal law ever since. There are innumerable lawsuits by groups, by unions, hardworking unions, individuals, organizations against the actions of this particular construction of our president. As aggressive as it can be, Elon Musk DOGE has flailed through every agency it can, disregarding established statutes, flouting basic privacy protections. Its official website consists of one sentence. The Department of Government Efficiency, the people voted for major reform. I think the people voted for the cost of living, for concern about their safety, about what was happening at the border, about the effectiveness of government to protect them, to advance them, for them to have the American dream. I don't think people voted for major reform within government agencies. DOGE actions include deleting agencies, unlawfully canceling congressionally authorized funds, which violate the constitutions. Now, the hurt that is happening to the federal workers, everyone is looking at these federal workers and thinking that that's not them, that that may not affect them as individuals in their everyday life. Slashing government contributions to those individuals who work there's health insurance by shifting to voucher models, raising federal employee retirement contributions while giving nothing in return, eliminating FERS supplemental retirement payments, jeopardizing retirement security, converting new federal employees to at-will status unless they accept higher FERS contribution, changing annuity calculations by using the average of the highest 3 salary years to the highest 5 salary years to reduce retirement payouts, eliminating TSP fund subsidies, the list goes on. Now, this is all being done by disrespecting and threatening federal workers, individuals who have dedicated their lives to working for the American good. We think of these as just some unnamed people, but these are individuals who work in each one of our districts. These are individuals who work here in Washington, who are working on behalf of the American people. We know about the fork in the road email to more than 2 million federal employees, threatening mass layoffs and offering a very brief window for them to resign. Now, my colleagues are going to tell you how wonderful this is, that he is uncovering waste and fraud, abuse in the federal government. I thought that was our job. I thought that what Congress was supposed to do. So we talk about individuals who don't want to work, who are lazy, who need to get off of the government dole. That sounds like us. If we want Elon Musk to do our job, why don't we give him the $5.3 billion in discretionary funding that goes to the legislative branch and just give it away, and all of you go home. Everybody wants to get to their children. They want to go home. They're tired. People of America elected us to do a job. If that means us being here all weekend, that's what you signed up for. That's what you're going to do. We're the ones who are supposed to uncover fraud, not Elon Musk. If you want him to do your job, stop being lazy. Give him our money and let him do that. But the Constitution has said that that's our job. Article 1 of the Constitution says that it is this legislature's job to find fraud and abuse. And actually, we do fund that. The Government Accountability Office has said that there are losses from fraud in the amount of $233 billion to $521 billion in federal government each year. So why don't we uncover that? How about the PPP loans that many of our colleagues took that may have not been used properly? Are we investigating that? We're not investigating that. We want to investigate individuals who are doing their job at NIH. We want to talk about people who are in sub-Saharan Africa, ensuring that young men do not become a part of Al-Qaeda because they're getting a little bit of food. Those are the things that we're worried about. We're worried about children getting school lunches and that their parents may not have worked as hard as we think they're supposed to work, so they shouldn't have those school lunches anymore. That's the things that we're afraid about. How about let's going after what the Government Accountability Office, which the latest legislative branch supports and funds, has actually uncovered? Because as far as DOGE is going, so far they have only found $7 billion in abuse. And at the rate that they're going, they're only going to find $45 billion a year. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of government money. And who knows what this individual is doing with the data, the information that he's finding, with the conflict of interest that he has. He has built nothing. He has bought everything. And he is buying this country as well. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. Is there a member who would like to claim the time in opposition to the amendment? Chair recognizes Mr. Grothman for 7 minutes.
Thanks. A lot of what was just said really didn't go to the guts of the amendment, but I feel I got to respond to it anyway. President Trump won his election in part because I think the people wanted somebody to take a fresh look at our government. And I am pleased with what DOGE has come up with already. I look forward to more things on my personal level. I look forward to what they're going to do with the Department of Defense. I think right now our Department of Defense is still, to a degree, prepared to fight World War II. And I think there are some fresh comments from people who have a great reputation because of financial success and otherwise that would indicate that a lot of that money could be wasteful. And anybody who's honest would say that we are not going to take a fresh look at the Department of Defense without President Trump and people like Elon Musk who are going to look at things from a different perspective. I also want to point out with regard to pollution, if we want a cleaner air or cleaner water in this world, the number one thing to do is to make sure we manufacture more stuff in the United States of America, right? If you want clean air, clean water, we want to produce more in America. There are friends, but less in China, less in India, less in Brazil, less in other countries. Now, as far as this amendment is concerned, it would be a disaster, both for the individual and for the business community. You are looking at massive increases in the marginal rate for small businesses going up to 43.4% as we let the small business deduction expire. That would be a disaster. We also have to remember we are competing on a global market. If we want to make things in this country, and my belief is strong that America is a wealthy country because they produce things. We're not wealthy because we have a lot of law firms. We're not wealthy because we have a lot of big box stores that we all shop at them. We're wealthy because we have a great manufacturing sector. And if we let these tax cuts expire, it's going to be devastating for the manufacturers of this country, put them one more time as a disadvantage compared to people in other parts of the world. So in any event, it is vital, just from the tax standpoint, that, and not to mention, would result in a massive Great Depression as every family around in America, or any family that is paying taxes, is going to have their taxes go up. As their disposable income drops, you're going to, like I said, you're going to cause the country to go into a great recession that we can't afford. I think to a certain extent, this amendment comes down to the fundamental difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party looks at money that people make, and they say, if only I could spend this, think of all the wonderful things we could do. The Republican Party, being the party of freedom, says that if you work hard for something, it's yours. and you can spend it however you want to spend it. So that comes to the guts of this amendment. I will point out that I think the Democrats, when they had all three under President Biden, could have done some of these things on their own. They didn't do it because even President Biden knew that if what happened to taxes is what would happen if this amendment passed, it would be a complete disaster. But thank you.
The gentleman yields. Ms. Plaskett is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you. I'm glad Mr. Grothman, my colleague, has talked about people working for their money. I know that that's something that's very important to him when he talks about his district and individuals receiving welfare, receiving SNAP, receiving school lunches. So I know that many of my colleagues have given statistics of individuals in their district and how much they're going to lose. I don't think that's necessary to share that 30,000 who are in Mr. Grothman's district who relies on SNAP may not receive it. But I too have been a Republican. I served under George W. Bush's administration as a Republican. And I think the most important part of the Republican Party is not just freedom, which I think is very important to Democrats as well, but to be fiscally responsible. And what we're doing right now is not fiscally responsible. We are blowing up the debt with this budget that we are putting out here. We are causing people to go off of subsidies and support that we are giving, which in the end is going to cost us more when people are not being fed, when people are not given skill sets, when people are not being taught how to take care of themselves, which many of these programs do. We are making ourselves more at risk by the cuts that we are putting in here, and that is not fiscal responsibility. I yield back, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this budget. We know that a budget is a statement of values. In simple terms, you put your money where your mouth is. And the money my Republican colleagues are getting right now is going to the class that they are beholden to, the uber wealthy. The bulk of those called savings come from slashing Medicaid funding, which ensures that 70 million Americans, and funds from the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, where another 10 million American children are helped. Those savings that they're getting are being created so that they can then give that money, give those savings to the ultra-rich. 20% of the population of the Virgin Islands are at risk of losing their health care under this budget. Veterans, children, families that are working, that are barely making it, rely on this. My fellow Americans, right here, right now, Republicans are trying to steal health care from 80 million people, and they're heading to the bank as millions of Americans are left helpless. What is happening? What's going on? Republicans are intentionally targeting grandmothers, are targeting children, targeting veterans that live in your neighborhood. My fellow Americans, they're going to throw some peanuts, a couple of $100 at each one of us, and tell us that you're getting some taxes back. But that's the amount of money that the very wealthy are getting. Average $314,000 are going to them at the expense of American people. Fraud, waste, and abuse. They're going to tell you they're using that money to get rid of illegals. They're going to tell you that they're going to try and dramatically change the landscape. No, they're only changing the landscape for those individuals that they are beholden to. $2 trillion of cuts for $4 trillion of money that are going into the pocket of individuals that they are beholden to. That's what's happening. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised that the Republicans have used this process to satisfy the people that they are most beholden to. Americans must stand up. I yield back.
Ms. Plaskett.
Mr. Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Ladies recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You know, my colleagues today we've all been talking about accountability. And I think that this resolution speaks to accountability. Because many of us believe that the Trump administration is taking a wrecking ball to Social Security Administration. And they don't want to meet with us about that. Far from making the agency more efficient, the Trump administration is undermining its ability to serve the public. And the primary question is, why? Why is this happening? Why is privatization the goal? Why are they trying to destroy Social Security? Many of us believe it's the first step of a long-standing effort by Republicans to dismantle trust in Social Security, slash benefits, and then allow people who are disgruntled and have lost faith in it to allow Wall Street to take it over. The Trump administration wants to close Social Security offices, slash agencies' workforce. The Social Security Administration is already at a 50-year staffing low due to years of underfunding. And with baby boomers increasing the number of beneficiaries, that's a recipe for disaster. How will gutting the workforce help Social Security Administration serve the American people? The point is, it does not. That's the goal. It does not. The chaos and the confusion, the constant stream of misinformation and missteps have a purpose. Let's talk about that. The misinformation, a Ponzi scheme. Listen, I'm a New Yorker. I understand a Ponzi scheme. A con man promises a payout that he can't deliver, collects the money, and disappears. That's not what's happening in the Social Security Administration, because people have put their money in it, and they are receiving a benefit. That's not a Ponzi scheme. Repeatedly stating that dead people and 150-year-olds are receiving checks, every newspaper, every group has said that that's untrue, including the Washington Post, which has already kissed the ring of the president. They're the ones also who have said that that's not true. How are we doing this? And why are we doing this? We want to bring back accountability. My colleague has stated that DOGE only has read-only access. We've seen weeks ago that that's not true. Oh, they just accidentally were able to make changes to it, they told us later on, and now they've gone back to read-only access. As a lawyer, the notion that they can be prosecuted for improper disclosure, that's if you find that they've had improper disclosure, first of all. And second of all, if they keep the information for themselves for data mining, for future elections, we would never be able to find that out to be able to prosecute it, because it's not disclosed to anyone but themselves. Why are they keeping this information, and what is the purpose of it? Make no mistake, the Trump administration's actions are to devastate the Social Security Administration's ability to serve the public and deliver Social Security payments so that they can then have access to $2.7 trillion for Wall Street to be able to play with. They need more money because you know what? We're not addicted to spending, as my colleague said. Many people are addicted to greed. That's what this is about. And the greed happens to be not from themselves, but for the American people. That's the Ponzi scheme, is them taking your damn money and using it for them own self, to enrich themselves more than they already have. That's the addiction. And you know what? This place is broken, because Congress has abdicated its responsibility to be the ones to find that race fraud and abuse and to do something different about it. We're letting somebody who's unelected, who's an auditor, now he's an auditor. Is he everything? Is he God? To be able to do what he wants to do with the American people. It's got to stop. I yield back.
It's Ms. Plaskett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to the witnesses. First let me say that we do have to, in this committee, try as much as possible to remain nonpartisan as opposed to bipartisan. I can recall being that way when I was counsel on the House Ethics Committee, and it's a hard position to take. But I'm really struck by the fact that in December of 2023, many people made Secretary Lloyd Austin go through the stages of the cross in self-flagellation and mea culpas for not informing the president that he was having a surgery. And now how we're treating Secretary Hedgepeth as if he is untouchable. Mike Waltz, when he was a member of Congress, went in the Committee on Armed Services to talk about and slammed Austin for holding himself to a different standard than the American people. And yet we are not doing this across the board. And that's disappointing at the very least, very disappointing. Director Gabbard, thank you for your testimony. And one of the things that I believe I heard you say was that when there was a discussion by DOGE as to the cuts to foreign aid, that there had not been a request for an intelligence and national security or an intelligence assessment of the impact of those cuts. Was that your testimony a little earlier?
Congresswoman, I have not seen any kind of actual official assessment either within the intelligence community or outside of it on what the effects of those cuts to USAID programs has been.
But it was not requested by DOGE of you or of any of the areas in which you have oversight over?
I'm not aware of any requests.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know that there has been some open source reporting on what the effect of those cuts are. I mean, when we think about several examples, Kenya, our strongest regional ally in the Horn of Africa, and a key partner with us in the fight against terrorist group Al-Shabaab. And, according to the Washington Post, that's not definitive, and we can talk about this in closed session. Some Kenyan journalists are now being trained by Beijing, mirroring the U.S. programs that have been cut by the administration. Director Gabbard, is letting China train Kenyan journalists going to make Kenya more or less receptive to American requests of the Kenyan government, do you believe?
As you said, Congresswoman, our relationship with Kenya has been very long-standing.
So do cuts of ours to train journalists in Kenya make them more or less, and Beijing having that make them more or less receptive?
Clearly, there is strategic competition taking place. I'll withhold my personal view to look at an official assessment.
Well, I was asking for your director view, not your personal view. And then, additionally, we have ended Voice of America, which provided accurate, unbiased news, in our opinion. Meanwhile, St. Petersburg University has announced that it's opened 11 Russian language centers across Africa that pay special attention to the promotion of traditional Russian spiritual and moral values. Director Gabbard, is Russia a friend or a foe? Are they our friend or our adversary?
They are an adversary.
Thank you. I believe that this reckless cuts make terrorism and our influence in Africa, which is on the front lines of terrorism, a real threat to us, and we need to be careful of it. Director Patel, one of the benefits of being here kind of in the middle is I get to hear other people's testimony and the questions that are asked. I know that Mr. Carson asked you questions specifically about the Counterterrorism Division. And we know that there has been some open source reporting that says that individuals within that division have been removed or been moved, not necessarily fired, but moved. Do you know if that is correct?
I don't have any personal information on that, but people within the CTD component, which is a large component of the FBI, move all the time.
And have they been moved? Are you able to get that information to us, whether they have or have not been moved?
I'll go back to my team and see who has been moved. If you have a particular interest, we'll share it with you.
Of course, we have an interest in Counterterrorism Division and movement of individuals within that. Because one of the other things I'm concerned about is you have stated, I believe in other areas, that the disbandment of certain sections of the FBI related to intel and breaking up components. Can you explain to us how you intend to do that, or what you would like to do and why?
My intention is to reprioritize counterintelligence authorities and cyber capabilities to focus on violent crime and national security, and that's what I'm doing.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Thank you.
The gentlewoman from Missouri, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am standing here appalled and terribly disappointed at the actions of the Republican majority. The brazen cruelty and flagrant deceit with which Republicans in Congress and the Trump-Musk administration are trying to shove down this fallacy on the throats of everyday American people. Nearly 1 in 3 Americans count on Medicaid, yet Republicans are pushing at least an $880 billion cut in Medicaid. For what purpose? This purpose. Because as I sit on Ways and Means, I know that they must add $7 trillion with a T, in giveaways to billionaire donors and big corporations while ripping health care and food away from veterans, seniors, and children. Americans are, yes, fed up with the chaos, but they are also fed up with the cruelty, the lack of humanity, and the willingness to help everyday Americans that are being exhibited by this. You are exposed.
Expired. Gentleman, recognize Ms. Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my fellow member of the Ways and Means Committee, which I agree is the greatest committee in the Congress. We have come to the end of a very long week here in Washington, and anyone watching now will likely have watched this week as we work through the night. Starting on Tuesday, Ways and Means Committee spent over 18 hours working through the night and into Wednesday trying to avert the catastrophic impact that this legislation will have. We watched Republicans give away the farm to greedy billionaires, the CEOs and corporations, making permanent tax cuts for the richest and trying to trick the rest of Americans with a set of minuscule measures that are all temporary and only serve to pull the wool over taxpayers' eyes. That overtime tax that they were talking about, temporary. Tips, temporary. Taxes for the wealthy, permanent. Don't be fooled. It's about the wealthy people in this country, not you and me. Our Republican colleagues in the Energy and Commerce Committee tried to rip away health care from Americans that need to pay for their giveaways to big corporations and the rich. Republicans are stealing from the poor and giving to the rich, feeding the king from the people's forest, from their own communities, while cosplaying as Robin Hoods. My colleagues talk about a strong country. We're going to be weaker because of this legislation. You can believe that. And listen, when Democrats were in charge, we instituted so many things that expanded work for all Americans. We increased health care. We guaranteed safe, affordable, high-quality childcare for every worker and family. We supported new energy. We supported growing this economy. Democrats temporarily expanded the child tax credit, giving so many children a chance. And we did this in a manner because we were concerned about the deficit. Listen, I'm concerned with SNAP. I'm concerned with Medicaid, Pell Grants, energy manufacturing. Those are important to me. That represents trillions of dollars that they have cut. But if they're really interested in being fiscally responsible, then don't give such big cuts to the rich. Actually try and balance a budget. Actually try and bring down the deficit. If you want to take away all of those things from the neediest, take away some shit from the rich as well. But you don't want to do that. You want to give them more off of the backs of American people. You're going to cut SNAP by $300 billion. Medicaid, health care for the poorest, $700 billion. You won't even give a cut to individuals making over $1 billion, which would have taken away $1 trillion that we could put back into other things. This is about the wealthy. This is not about the American people. I yield back.
For being here today, Ms. Plaskett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witness for being here this afternoon with us, and making yourself available and answering questions and engaging with the members of this committee. I first wanted to share that, I think back on the last administration, this administration, the transition. There's always going to be changes, ideas and changes, mechanisms in which we're done. But I think we need to talk truth about what the numbers were in each one of those. Now, we know that at the time of President Trump's inauguration, unemployment was at less than 4%. Inflation was below 3%. And the numbers that have been put out about where inflation is now has not really changed month to month. When we look at CPI, the Bureau of Labor statistics, those numbers have not changed significantly from the downward trajectory that happened from 2020. We have continually gone down in inflation. Economic growth at the time of inauguration was at 2.8% in real terms. And that was, according to World Analysis, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The bottom 20% of workers saw the largest real wage gains during the Biden administration. We're going to give Jackett's jacket here in this committee. Additionally, we have seen since January 20th that the stock market overall has gone down 1.3%, and gas has gone up.
Ma'am, that's incorrect.
Excuse me. Let me get something straight with you first here. I've seen you interrupt everyone. When you come to someone's house, you respect their rules. And in this house, we don't interrupt individuals. And you're not going to interrupt my time. I'm going to give you time to respond. You may want to jot down some notes about things that you don't agree with me on so that you can respond to them at that time. But while I'm speaking, as the person holding this time, you will refrain from speaking, sir, until I am done.
I look forward to
until I am
responding.
done, and then I will give you time to speak, okay?
Look forward to the facts.
Thank you. I'll look forward to your response, whether they're factual or incorrect either. Now, one of the things that I noticed that the president, our present president, has said that he was going to do was going to bring down the cost of living. But as we all know, costs have not gone down. Whether they have remained stagnant at the amount that they were at the time of the inauguration or before, or they have gone up, real costs have not gone down for the American individuals. I know that my colleagues want to talk about in this bill what is happening in terms of their support for the American worker. There's a discussion I hear from several colleagues that if this legislation is not passed, it will then trigger the largest tax hike. That's because you made the largest tax cut in 2017 with this bill. And it's not to say that we cannot negotiate, as Congress has used to do, something in between there. It does not have to be this bill. It could, in fact, be something in between there. But that's not what we're doing here in this Congress at this time. Additionally, we have seen that, there's discussion about overtime taxes, overtime, the credit that's going. We know that only 12% of hourly workers receive overtime. And then the discussion about tips, which is only going to affect 2.5% of American workers, and only 40% of tip earners actually file federal taxes. So we are not going to affect everyone that we need to affect. Unfortunately, everyday Americans, the outcome of the supposedly strategic legislation that we have here is very predictable. We're watching the cost of bread, bacon, butter rise, egg prices continuing to go up, and the rising cost is not going to happen. One individual who I follow, James Serwicki, a classmate of mine actually from prep school who was at Yale, discusses that there's no acceleration of economic growth in this legislation because there's not being meaningful cutting of tax rates. We are going to be reducing spending, that's correct, but there are intended consequences to that as well. Additionally, let's talk about DOGE. $2 trillion, $1 trillion, $150 billion. Those were what we said the savings were going to be. I'm concerned that with this legislation as well, we are not going to see the real numbers. The numbers that are put out are not going to be, in fact, the real ones. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Mr. Moran.
From the Virgin Islands is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have repeatedly told people when asked about the rationale for actions of this administration to follow the money. Yesterday in the House Budget Committee, we heard alarming testimony from expert witness Robert Gordon. He reminded of those motives in the Republicans' reconciliation bill when he explained the lucrative opportunities for powerful private contractors to profit off of the red tape in the bill created in Medicaid. Republicans' beautiful bill for billionaires requires increased work check-ins for people to retain that Medicaid. For employment data, states are likely to use the work number from Equifax, which costs over $20 per person per search. Under the bill, more than 18 million people would have to be checked every month. That equates to $360 million per month, and that is $4.32 billion per year, or roughly $43 billion over the bill's 10-year budget. Going to the vendors who make money, who are going to be processing this, follow the money.